With these concerns becoming more of a household habit and our planet increasingly more noisy, what can be done to prevent a childhood hindrance from becoming an adulthood disability? In a shocking outcome, California upholds the ban on gay marriages. The 6-1 ruling, written by Chief Justice Ronald M. George, does not affect civil unions, though, or the 18,000 same-sex marriages performed before the ban. Though the pedestrian wall idea was born out of good intentions, some drivers are not as enthused about the sanctuary feel of Times Square. The swine flu, or the H1N1 virus, has claimed 2 more lives in New York, now bringing the death count to 4, while hospitals in the city that normally get 200 visits a day are now up to 2,000. Reporting live from Times Square, this is Sabina Bassine for New York Film Academy, NBC News. Welcome to this edition of NBC NYFA News. Hello, I'm Sabina Bassine. This week, what was hoped to be an isolated flu outbreak in Mexico has become a virtual pandemic. The swine flu, now being referred to as the H1N1 virus, is spreading around the world. Longtime Republican Senator Arlen Specter of Pennsylvania is now a Democrat. The iPhone has become a must-have device for an entire generation, and profiting from it has never been easier. The world of compromised morals may be closer to home than some realize, and perhaps just a part of monthly expenses. From instant coffee to instant pleasure, our world is beset by instant gratification, and the sex industry generates more income than many can imagine.
Once they make you part of their life, they're not going to cut you out because they need to cut corners. They'll cut out the dinners with their wife. They'll cut out the expensive toys for their kids. They'll cut out the Prada suits, and they will still continue to come see you and pay you $500 for the hour.
Jezebel, legally a dominatrix at a dungeon on the Upper West Side, illegally a woman of the night in New Jersey and New York. Her face has been blurred for her own protection.
These are clients that are coming in on their lunch hour, coming in before work. These are the clients that are married.
So what is it about the quiet indiscretions and the taboo lure that draws men of all ages, public positions, and even from the noblest of unions, marriage, into the thriving business, shrouded in secrecy, but fully directed behind the doors of the law? The fascination with this phenomenon created a novel called Girls by Nick Kellman, and in it he verifiably states the American male spends more money annually per capita on the sex industry than on taking his wife to the movies and buying video games for his children. So why is money that could be used elsewhere being used on the sex industry?
I think the foundations of American culture are essentially puritanical, and I think that as a result it sort of infiltrated the way that men and women relate to each other in this country.
But to sex therapist and author Rob Block, the reasoning is not so ingrained by society's nurturing, rather more primal and found in basic human nature.
It's all about him. He doesn't have to be responsive. He doesn't have to deal with anything else. It's just pure sex.
But to some, it's just about the money.
I got paid well. At the dungeon, they pay like $250. The girls get paid $90 an hour, and then usually tip on top of that. So the tip can go anywhere from, $50 to $100 to $200. So I got into the hooking because I realized how much more money that I could be making.
The sex industry grossed $12 billion in 2003, more than all the combined revenues of all the professional football, baseball, and basketball franchises. And with the ease of access, $2.5 billion of that $12 billion is from internet pornography, where people of all ages can participate.
Men who start seeing this at a young age, when their love map is forming, are getting, one, desensitized. Most of the women they see aren't going to be porn queens.
In this extremely lucrative industry, where over $3,000 a second is being spent on pornography, according to the Internet Filter Review, there is no price tag on the potential damage to personal lives.
Part of the difficulty with porn doesn't transfer well. So you have what's going on in the film and a guy getting really interested in that, and that may not transfer well with his wife.
Jezebel has been able to differentiate love from lust and continues her fruitful but unconventional line of work.
as long as I could wake up every single morning and still look at myself in the mirror and not feel like I'm doing something wrong, then I could get into it.
As long as there are women willing to sell and men willing to consume, this industry will flourish and the circle will continue to gyrate the hips of American morals. Sabina Basine, NYFA News, New York. Depression is a debilitating mental disease that affects millions of Americans. Recently, I met with a therapist who has an unconventional way of treating those suffering from depression. Like other therapists, he treats patients by talking to them, but he goes one step, well, many steps further. From the apartment to the train, to the office, to the train, and back home, lather, rinse, repeat. This constant hustle and bustle is the everyday reality for many New Yorkers. So finding peace of mind can be a challenge. The lack of free time, rest, fresh air, and introspection can lead to mental health problems like depression and anxiety. According to the National Institute of Health, about 20 million Americans suffer from depression. Among the various therapies available to help combat depression, one licensed social worker suggests a treatment that's as simple as taking the first step, literally.
What I do is a little different.
I met Dr. Clay Cockrell in Central Park and learned all about what he calls walk and talk therapy.
Being able to change the way you look at the world can therefore change your behavior. So a lot of it is gaining some understanding of where you are and how you got there, and what can you change to make things better.
Cockrell has been a practicing therapist for over 15 years. He thinks walking while talking to patients gets better results than the typical office visit.
There is an ease to the relationship that you build with your therapist, and I think sitting in an office and is somewhat contrived. While walking together, it's very casual.
According to WebMD, a proponent of Dr. Cockrell's method, exercise is one of the best ways to overcome personal ailments, and for some patients, could even be better than medication. Even exercise as easygoing as simply walking.
And I've seen my clients get better quicker while walking during the session.
Dr. Cockrell has found walking while talking a good way to get men to open up.
I think it's particularly good for men who have a difficult time making eye contact with someone and revealing some very difficult personal, private issues while making eye contact. And while you're walking, you're not really making eye contact. It's a glance every once in a while, but it's easier to reveal oneself.
Cockrell, who carefully plots his walks to take about an hour, charges $150 a session. For that, patients get some moderate exercise, standard talk therapy, and plenty of fresh air.
When one moves forward when you're walking, I think it's a metaphor for moving forward in your life.
That's it for this edition of New York Film Academy NBC News. I'm Sabina Basine.